it's a long way to go for Columbus, and I know they should be healthier. Then add in the Mike Babcock situation. Do they rally around that? Do they fall apart? What happens?
Yeah, right.
What were your thoughts on
Yeah,
that? Were you shocked
yeah.
or not really?
What's there to be surprised about? I mean,
Exactly.
If someone's telling you who they are, you better listen.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we've seen from him for the last number of years, and sitting out 4 years, we got a lot of lip service heading into the summer, which was I've done the work. I'm talking to people about the tone and how I talk to people. I'm relying on my daughter. I'm asking for more feedback from players. You just can't do the stuff that he tried to do.
Right.
And you know what? As guys who have spent a lot of time in a locker room, I think the biggest impact to come out of this whole story is that you had 18, 19, and 20-year-old kids step up and say, we're not going to tolerate this.
Yeah.
In the NHL 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that would never happen.
No,
Someone would get to you, whether it's a GM, a coach, the president of hockey ops, your captain, and they would say, shut up.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Suck it up, right? Yeah, it's the old school way. And I guess the question is like I know he's all the lip service and said all the right things. Like, how does a guy like that get another job in the NHL? There's so many good new school coaches that communicate with their players that don't have the baggage. Like, how did he ever land up in that position anyways? Like, honestly.
That's why I felt and wrote after the fact that it was time for Jarmo Kekalainen to go.
Right.
10 years in Columbus,
I saw that.
You had one playoff round victory. You've made the playoffs as many times as you've missed. Your team was dreadful last year, a 58-point season. Why? Like, this was an all-important hire that you knew you needed to nail. Do you mean to tell me there's not one other coach on the planet that you think could have came in and done as good or better job as Mike Babcock and not have all of that baggage?
Yeah.
That's not how I see the world. I think it's way more gray than that. I can't believe that you could get it so wrong that the guy doesn't even make it to training camp and then think that there shouldn't be any blowback on you.
Oh, I know.
Right.
I know.
I
still scratching my head on that one. I just can't for the life of me understand.
We talked
so
about
can I
it, Frank,
actually ask
when
you
it
guys,
happened.
I want to ask you about what I was just getting at, because I really want the player's perspective of having been there. When you see players step up and say to the NHLPA who comes in and does their investigation, do you look at that in the new school way and say that's soft, or do you look at that and say good for them?
That's a really good question. I think it's good what happened. I think it was necessary. You know what I mean? It's like we have to call out like some of the real absolute bullshit, and it's like some stuff is, what you call is hard old school coaching, and just like you just got to grind through it. But then there's other stuff that's just like unacceptable, right? I think this thing is like it falls in that bucket of unacceptable, and I think we are in a time and place where I don't want to use the term cancel culture, but it's like things that happen these days that cross that line
are sensitive, right?
are much more sensitive, right? I mean, back in the day, you just like dust it under the rug, it's just like tough it out, just the way it is. But like, I think we're some bit evolving as humans, and part of me says the opposite too sometimes. But I like the fact that we didn't accept that bullshit anymore. It's like there's a fine line of being hard and then just being absolutely utterly disrespectful, and crossing that line of personal privacy and disrespecting the players and the team, in my opinion. So
bullying young players while you're at it. Like, it's one thing to say like, hey, Eric Goodbranson, you've been in this league forever, let me see your phone. Like, but he didn't do that because he didn't have I don't want to say the balls. He didn't have the courage to do that. He only wanted to pick on the younger guys. And I think everyone can get behind the idea of you're a hard ass at the rink. You're tough on guys in practice. You work them. You yell at them. All like whatever it is. Like everyone's cool with that. I think it's like inviting a guy over to your backyard who's 18 and being like, "Give me your phone. I want to inspect it." Like it just. What does that? What do you
Creepy,
even
man.
glean about that player? Like, okay, so like let's just like play the hypothetical game. He's got pictures of him drinking or broads or whatever it might be. Does that make him a shitty hockey player?
No,
Does he-
but
you
he's
don't even
got
learn
something
anything.
to. He has something to hold over his head.
Well, that's
That
it takes it to a whole other level of
I
his
think
strategies.
he takes it to another level.
Yeah, because now you got
That's
pictures,
my
right?
opinion.
Yeah, well, I think that's you can hold it over a player's head somewhere down the line. It's probably not even anything that he really wants to know in the immediate moment.
Yeah.
But once you got something on somebody, it's just like, this is the control thing that's a lot of these, say, old school type of coaches, the strategy they use. I mean, I hear stories about some of these old school guys, and it was, threatening them with either sending them to the minors or this or that, or, and ruining your career or life almost, right? It's, we don't know if that to be the case for sure, but but what would be the reason why besides, you could learn a little bit about the player, but at the end of the day, does that affect the guy's performance on the ice? At the end, really, that's all.
I know he didn't ask Ivan.
Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, that was a joke. I talked to him almost every. I talked to Pro almost every day, and when that whole thing came out, I said, "You got your phone cleared off, or you good?" He goes, "He didn't ask me for my phone.
The bad phone.
He didn't ask me for my phone."
No chance he would ask someone like that for his phone.
No,
because he's a strong-willed individual that would tell him to go kick a rock.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think evolution is an interesting term. I'm with you. I think so Jake Voracek tweeted at me after I've filed that story on Jarmo Kekalainen saying like, hey, this, Babcock's gone. This guy needs to follow him out the door. And he said enough with the cancel culture bullshit. Like no one hates cancel culture more than me. Like I think it's ridiculous that we throw people away, lock them up and throw away the key sometimes. Like there needs to be a way to rehabilitate yourself. There needs to be a path back. But no one canceled anyone here. Mike Babcock canceled himself.
That's it.
100%.
100%. I agree.
If you can't get out of your own way, you deserve everything you get and then some.
But Frank, go ahead.
There's consequences and other collateral damage that comes with that. You made the decision to hire him. You need I answer to bosses. You guys answer to bosses. We all have them. At some point, that becomes a real thing.
Yeah, right. It has nothing to do with cancel culture. I mean, the bottom line is, as you alluded to earlier, 10 years in that position, no real results, and then that hire in a critical time in the organization's evolution into in the league and his shelf life. It's like how does he still have a job? It's not, it has nothing to do with cancel culture, just being honest.
How do you think some of these other GMs are watching it? They feel like Jason Botterill, he gets 3 and out in Buffalo. I mean, maybe he made a bad hire with Ralph Kruger, but he didn't abuse anyone.
Yeah,
right.
Well, you just had some shitty results, which everyone does in this league. It's invariable, and you make you're not going to win every trade, things like that. But how many GMs, coaches, whatever it might be, that have been through the ringer 3 years and out, 4 years and out? They're changed left and right for results, yet this is an egregious thing and kind of really mediocre results. And they're just like, what do you mean lose his job? Are you nuts? Stop canceling everyone, Frank.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Such an outrageous claim.
I know.
Yeah.
It really is. And I had heard, I can't really say where, but I know we talked about, I can tell you off air, Frank, but I had heard it started right away when he got to town. Before players, it started with coaches. There were some things that were said from a very good source that it started right there.
Oh, I believe.
And you know what? Way. Good on Biz. Good on the way this social media world has evolved. You guys have a voice. Biz and his crew. Everyone has their own voice. Dude had a lot to lose.
I agree.
Putting that out there. He has a job on a national platform at TNT with a league partner that I am certain was breathing down his neck those couple days saying, you got to walk this back. Yeah. And he was like, no, I'm good. If you need to fire me is essentially how I viewed it. And he stood up. There's power in that, especially as these, hockey players are far behind other sports in finding their voice for good and bad. I think it's been to their positive for a long time, but that was the point of what I was saying, is they're finding it.